welcome to the Pot Stirrin' Podcast. Well, hello and welcome to the Pot Stirrin' Podcast. This is Wyatt here, and again, I'm gonna be talking about dinosaurs. I have a previous episode on dinosaurs that me and a friend did just recently. And so I'm just going to kind of add to that a little bit. This subject of dinosaurs living today is kind of what I'm going to cover today. But particularly, this particular topic is disputed by atheists and Christians alike. I think, my position is, I think that any Christian should take this and run with it. I mean, this is absolute evidence for it's very, very strong evidence for a creator and a global flood, and the biblical it backs the Bible. It's biblical, so I think any Christian should take a hold of this and get in and really run with it. And I've bumped into Christians that are, about the whole topic are kind of hesitant to jump right in and dive in and get on the train about dinosaurs that are still living today. A lot of Christians take to the position that they died before, died in the flood and they're completely gone. But others take the position that they're still living, they're still around the world today. And I'm going to try to give you some evidence to that effect, that dinosaurs are actually still living today. Now, to start, I have never seen a living dinosaur. I have never seen one. But as anyone who is studying anything important, you have to look at the facts, and you have to look at the evidence on both sides, yay or nay. Are they living or are they not? It's evident in the Bible. The whole fact. So let me establish the fact. But to start here, let me establish the fact that dinosaurs did not die out at one catastrophic event in the past, as the secular model tries to present, and they did not die at the flood. I mean, it's like we talked about in my previous episode. It's evident that dinosaurs were included in the animals on the ark. It said everything that has breath in its nostrils taken on the ark, and so it's evident. And dinosaurs had that. They were big lizards, so they were on the ark. They got off the ark and they procreated just like everything else. Why would they multiplied? Why would they go extinct and all the other animals live? It just doesn't make logical sense. So dinosaurs were on the ark and probably survived, and definitely survived the flood, and and were around through history. Okay, in the Bible it calls them dragons. Now, it doesn't call them dinosaurs because the word dinosaur was not invented. It was not invented until the 1800s. And so dragons is what it was called before then in history, and whenever they translated the Bible in 1611 into English. So they were called dragons, okay, and they're referred to as just a very large, ferocious creature, okay? And they've been seen throughout the world. All throughout the world, people have written accounts. We have written accounts, like one of them is the Beowulf story, written by a guy named Beowulf, who apparently slew a dragon by pulling off one of his arms. And you say, well, that's just a story. We don't know if that's true. Well, the way people have preserved history is, they wrote stories, they wrote things down. That's all we have to prove about humans' interactions with dinosaurs. And dragons have been all over the world. Now, China, there's a lot of dragon legends. They have a dragon in their I don't even know what that's called, where they have 12 different animals, one animal for every month and that kind of thing. So they have 11 real animals and one that's mythical. Really? No. They're probably all legitimate. They're definitely all legitimate. Okay. And the dragon that they present, and they have drawings of and whatever, that they display is probably not the way dragons really looked, but it's probably exaggerated. And, whether they blew fire or not, that's a whole different discussion. But the fact that they had a dragon there, that's pretty impressive. Okay, and that's a clue. Okay, it's also throughout Chinese history, like one of the emperors in the world, and a long time ago, like 1,000 years ago, it was like right around the year 1,000 or 1,100. They had an emperor that was training dragons to pull them in his parades in China. Okay, and you can look this stuff up. I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. I mean, this is real. It's what they called a dragon. They were raising it up to. They were raising dragons. Okay, to pull chariots in their parades. I mean, that's pretty cool. There's countless stories of people all around the world who have had encounters with such creatures. You have sea monsters. There's been legends of sea monsters all over the world that have taken down ships and killed people and all that kind of stuff. Now, we do have some very hard evidence that dinosaurs lived with man. They have existed with man. Most secular models present the case that dinosaurs were not the false case, or false premise that dinosaurs have never lived with man, and man has never seen a living dinosaur. Okay, so if that is the case, then why in Glen Rose, Texas, why do we have human footprints right along in the same strata with dinosaur footprints? Interesting. Well, and most, some atheists will say, oh, well, those are naturally occurring phenomenon. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon that it would, something happens in the soil and creates a human-shaped foot track. It's like, oh, that's baloney. Okay, it's a track. Okay, if that's the case, then the dinosaur tracks were fake too. Okay, but they're in the same strata, in the same mud, in the same place. There's human footprints. One of them was inside of a dinosaur track. Okay, yeah, and look this stuff up. It's not just me. I mean, this stuff's real. You can go to Glen Rose, Texas, and see it in the river over there. Okay, that's good evidence. Also, the Native American Indians, the North American Indians, they drew what appear to be drawings of dinosaurs on rocks throughout the entire U.S. One of the places that is the most popular would be in the Grand Canyon. There's dinosaurs drawn on the walls. And, how would people who drew this 300 or 400, 500 years ago know what a dinosaur looks like? Okay? And the atheists have come up with an explanation for that. And their literal explanation for this, okay? And this is not me saying this, but this is fact. Is that thousands of years ago, when primal man was running around on the earth, dinosaurs ate the primal man, and then primal man was scared of the dinosaurs, so it made an imprint in their DNA somehow and passed down through the ages, so that now that you have people now who are they're not really seeing dinosaurs, or in the past or whatever, they're not really seeing dinosaurs. They're just having a bad dream or a hallucination that they saw a dinosaur, because it's in their genes or whatever. That's just absolute baloney. And you're probably going, what? Like, yeah, I probably didn't explain it the best, but yeah, it's baloney, okay? I don't understand it either. But, so, it's just total nonsense, okay? Another explanation they have for the hieroglyphs and that kind of thing that you see around the world, around the U.S., is that Indians were professional paleontologists, which are people who dig dinosaur bones out of the earth. That's baloney, okay? That can be easily debunked, because people are, Native Americans in particular had in their culture, all of them had it in their culture that if you touched bones, you were going to die or something like that. I mean, they didn't do that. They didn't touch graves. They didn't disturb graves. They didn't touch bones. None of that. It is strictly forbidden in their culture to do that. So how would they dig dinosaur bones out of there and then draw pictures of them? like, okay, all right, you could argue that, there was that one naughty Indian that went and dug up some bones and nobody knew about it and drew it on the cave wall, okay? All right, if you want to say that, you can. But I'm making the case that they really saw a real dinosaur, okay? Now, a lot of these Indian legends are just, like, are crazy or whatever, and they might be rooted in some kind of truth, but a lot of them are pretty wild. But some of them are rooted in some kind of truth. Okay? Now, I know that there's this among Indians in the U.S., there's this thing called the Thunderbird. Interesting. Well, whenever Ford made the Thunderbird car, they put an eagle on the front. Well, it wasn't an eagle. Okay? And I'll tell you why. There's this legend of Indians, particularly in South Dakota, in the Black Hills. There's this legend of this thing called the Thunderbird, okay? And they thought it was a god, and they thought, whatever. And they thought, the reason they thought it was a god, and this, that, and the other. They were real scared of it, okay? It was apparently a very, very large bird, okay? And you ask the question, well, what is this bird? Well, they said it was completely featherless, and it had a bony crest on the back of its head, and it would come out whenever storms came. So they thought that it brought the storms. That's why they call it a thunderbird. It brought the thunder. Interesting. Well, whenever you dig deeper into this thing and look at the evidence and kind of trying to find out what they were seeing, is that they were seeing a giant. And I mean, they're talking about big. Whenever they say a big bird, I mean, this thing was big. They say, it's been estimated that the thing was about 50, 60 foot. Had about a 50 to 60 foot wingspan. It's a big bird. They knew, if they were making something up, they wouldn't know a lot of details, or the details would not be consistent. But in this case, they were very consistent. They knew what they ate. They knew what their eggs looked like. They knew where they nested. They knew what their young looked like. They could describe the color of their skin, when they came out, what their eyes looked like, all that stuff. And they could describe these things as if it was a real thing. They weren't just seeing anything. Okay. And that brings me to the topic of pterosaurs around the world. There's actually been arguably a population of pterosaurs, which is a flying dinosaur, in the U.S. Very, very interesting. I highly recommend a book by Jonathan Whitcomb. He's a creationist, and he has done a tremendous amount of research on living pterosaurs around the world. He's been to Papua New Guinea as well as all around the U.S. talking to people and researching this topic. But definitely, his name is Jonathan Whitcomb. I would highly recommend reading his books. You can get them on Amazon. He talks about going to Papua New Guinea and talking to the natives over there about this big glowing flying reptile that they see over there. And you look at this and you're like, okay, well, yeah, you're talking to natives. Okay, all right. So, all right, you're talking to natives. Okay, well, they don't have any credibility. Okay, well, I mean, I understand they probably make stuff up and stuff like that just to get attention or whatever. I can see that, but you're talking to someone who it's evident that they had a real live experience. You have one woman who described how her husband died, and at the funeral they had the body laying out there, and a giant winged creature swooped down, grabbed the human body, and took it away. And they couldn't bury the guy, and all they have there is a tombstone for him because they don't have a body. That's interesting. I mean, that's pretty wild, but you can hear that from the very person who saw it happen and other people who can verify that, yes, we saw this happen. Apparently, and they, of course, like I said, they know things about them. They know what their favorite food is. Their favorite food is rotting human flesh. So, you got to watch out when you got a funeral going on. Literally. And they dig up graves and stuff like that too. They apparently glow in the dark. And Americans have been over there and observed these creatures, or Westerners, I should say, have been over there and observed these creatures glowing in the dark. It's pretty fascinating. These people know a lot about these creatures. There is a type of creature in the U.S. There's hundreds that'll go on record, or really are afraid to go on record because so many people make fun of them about how they saw what they describe as a flying pterosaur. It has a huge wingspan. It's unmistakable. 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50, 60 feet long, wide wingspan. That's not anything like we know. And the reports are consistent. They're not all over the place. They're consistent. There may be a little, few minute details here and there, like it had teeth or it didn't or whatever. But, what people are seeing is something with a huge wingspan, no feathers, completely featherless, and generally a long snout and a short tail or no tail. And it's pretty fascinating. I would recommend that you look into those things. In the Congo, over in Africa, there has been stories of huge dinosaurs living in the Congo. There's a man by the name of Bill Gibbons who has been over there several times and has seen their tracks, heard their sounds, and that kind of thing, and has been there and experienced the evidence of these creatures. Has never seen one, but has experienced the evidence of these creatures. And there's you go around talking to the natives over there, and they're like, there's actually a part of the Congo River called the Forbidden Zone because so many people get killed by this creature with a long neck that destroys their canoe and eats them. Okay, and they describe it as a creature that's 30, 40, 50 feet long with a long neck, towering about 20 feet in the air. Sounds like a long-necked dinosaur to me. But they also say that there's large portions of the river that this creature controls and will not allow hippopotamus or elephants to enter in those territories, in his territory. How big does it have to be to scare away a hippopotamus or an elephant? There's even actually a creature over there that is said to kill elephants. Interesting. Well, you say, well, these are just natives. They're just making stuff up. Okay, so there's a video, and you can see it on the internet. It's true. It's accurate. You can see it for yourself. Okay, these Westerners take a book of, and this has been done multiple times over. There's not just this guy that did it, but several people have done it, where they take a book of animals, and there's some dinosaurs sprinkled in. Okay. And there's lions and hippopotamus and elephants and, all that kinds of stuff, monkeys and all kinds of stuff. And then they have a picture of a dinosaur. Well, they're going through this book. These natives are going through this book, and they see the dinosaur, and they point at it, and they go, I saw that, I saw that, I saw that. They get real excited and say, I saw that when I was a kid, I saw that. These are people that have never been told about dinosaurs. They've never gone to school in America and heard that dinosaurs... They don't even know what a dinosaur looks like, a lot of them, okay? But they know what they saw. That's science. And there's countless of those that I could talk about. There's lots of those things out there. And so it's just it's stuff like that you hear, and it's like that sounds pretty accurate. And the fact that, for me, it's not necessarily like the eyewitness accounts that do it. I mean, those are important. But for me, it's really the fact that it's hard for me to believe that a dinosaur could not hide in those areas. I mean, it's pretty easy to believe that a dinosaur could hide in those tropical, in those forests where a white man has never been. I mean, that's not hard to believe. Same thing in South America. I've heard stories of places like Bolivia and Belize, the thick jungle down there where a Westerner has never been. And the natives talk about, like I heard one story one time of a guy who went down there to assist a missionary, and he came for a few days, and he came back. He went to visit a missionary or something down there, and he came back, and he said that the missionary told him that he had a guy just a few days before he got there a guy came in the church and told him that he had shot a giant armadillo. And apparently they have these giant armadillos down there that are like 5-6 feet long or something like that. They're huge. Okay. He said this thing had a length of, he said it was like 3 meters long. It was like 9 feet long. Okay. And it had, like spikes all over it and all that kind of stuff. It was like nothing he'd ever seen. He shot it. He was out hunting and he shot it. And it was laying over there in the bushes somewhere. And apparently he, this guy was telling the story about, yeah, I shot it. I shot it this morning, over in the bushes over there. And it was crazy. I've never seen one that big. And this, that, and the other. And he started describing it. And then the guy gets his phone out and got pulled, I guess on the internet, pulled up a picture of wasn't a stegosaurus. It's I think it's, no, it's not an ankylosaurus. It's an ankylosaurus, the one with, I think it's an ankylosaurus with it's got the armor all over it, and it's got this big ball on its tail. And, it's kind of long. It looks like a stegosaurus. It's just kind of more rounded and didn't have the plates and stuff, but has a big old ball on its tail. Showed a picture of that guy, and he said the guy went nuts, and he was like, that's what I shot. That's what I shot. That's exactly what I shot. And that's amazing, And there was also stories of there were stories of one guy who saw what he described as a raptor. He said it stood about 5-6 feet tall. It was 10 to 15 feet long with its tail. I mean, they're mostly tail. And he said it scared him so bad he doesn't ever want to go to that part of the jungle again because it was so scary. That's amazing. That kind of thing probably still exists down there where Westerners have never gone. Whenever something goes extinct, how do they prove that thing is extinct? How do you know it doesn't exist in some remote part of the world? So, interesting. And I've done some research before that was saying that actually there actually is a type of cat down there that resembles a saber-toothed cat. And there was some native or something that had a skull from it, had this big old long teeth. So I wouldn't doubt that those kind of animals still exist in this world today. And I think there's tremendous evidence that dinosaurs exist nowadays. And I wouldn't doubt it at all that there still are some alive. And that there definitely has been ones alive in the past. Now the whole sea monster thing, that's fascinating. Okay. Because people have said for years there's been this legend of the sea monsters, animals that kill people and eat them and all that kind of thing. And there's countless stories and evidence of things that has transpired, people describing what they've seen out there. And it's nothing more than just a plesiosaur, a large dinosaur, a large swimming dinosaur. There's lakes around the world that have people claim to that these lakes contain some kind of water-dwelling dinosaur, like the Loch Ness monster in Loch Ness in that lake in Scotland. That's definitely a plesiosaur in my opinion. I mean, I think that thing's real, and I think it's a plesiosaur. Then there's the Lake Okanagan monster, the Ogopogo. It's similar to Bessie. Lake Erie in the U.S. had a legend of that. Something called Bessie in Lake Erie. Is a long neck plesiosaur. And they have all over the world. They have stuff like that. And that's just fascinating. It's just fascinating. I think that dinosaurs definitely lived in the past, are alive, and are still living today, and definitely have lived. It proves the Bible in the sense that man has always lived with dinosaurs, and dinosaurs lived along with man, and they were created at the same time. They went through a worldwide flood at the same time and repopulated, and have lived with man ever since. I don't think that's a long stretch of the imagination at all. But I would recommend you do some research on it. One book that I highly recommend is called Dragons or Dinosaurs, by Derek Isaacs. That's a really good one on dinosaurs, dragons, and that kind of thing. And then Dr. Kent Hovind has a tremendous amount of resources on that topic, materials. He has a seminar called Dinosaurs in the Bible. Highly recommend watching that. It's it's tremendous. It's very, very good from a biblical perspective. And so I would just recommend that you give some thought to it, do some research on it, and come to terms with the fact that that's real. Dinosaurs have been around with man, and it's a very, very, very it's a very strong evidence that the Bible is true, and that dinosaurs did not live millions of years ago, and that the Earth is not millions of years old, but that dinosaurs were created at the same time with man, went through a flood, and are still around today. I mean, could be still around today, but definitely have been around in times past. So there's a lot of references in the Bible about dragons and fiery flying serpents and that kind of thing, and definitely give those a look as well. We didn't have time to do that in this episode, but I definitely give that a try as well, and take a look at it and do some research on it. It's definitely a very, very satisfying, very, very fascinating subject. So anyway, well, I appreciate you joining me today, and I hope this has been informative and helpful to you, and I hope this helps you in some way in your walk with the Lord, helps to strengthen your faith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on next episode. Looking forward to getting you out some new content in future episodes as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. See ya. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Pot Stirring Podcast.